Think about it. You've been silent. You've been distant. You've watched your phone like it owes you something. And you've given them exactly what they asked for, space. You played it cool. You acted unbothered. You told yourself that silence speaks louder than words. But here's the part nobody tells you. They are not hurting. Not the way you want them to. Not the way you imagined when you finally decided to stop texting first. They are in fact feeling something else entirely. And it is not pain. It is not regret. It is not even a second thought about what they lost. It is relief. That word stings, doesn't it? But you need to hear it because the truth is what sets you free. And right now, you are still holding on to a lie that is keeping you stuck. See, the no contact rule was never built for someone with an avoidant attachment style. It was built for people who miss you. It was built for people who feel the absence and feel the weight of it. But an avoidant, they don't feel absence the way you do. Their nervous system was wired differently. The space you give them doesn't make them come closer. It makes them breathe easier. And that is the part that breaks you. You stopped reaching out because someone online told you that if you go silent long enough, they will start to miss you. They will wake up thinking about you. They will feel the void and come crawling back. You held on to that hope. You silenced yourself. You watched your own needs take a back seat. And you did it because you thought it would work, but it didn't. Because you were playing chess with someone who doesn't even see the board. Here's what you need to understand. You are not dealing with someone who pushes away because they don't love you. You are dealing with someone who pushes away because closeness feels like disappearing. Every time you pulled back to give them space, you confirmed to them that distance is safe. You rewarded their avoidance. You taught them without even knowing it that if they just wait long enough, you will always be there. And that is exactly why they never came running. They never had to, not once. Now I know this hurts. I know you are sitting there wondering if any of it was even real. I know you are replaying every moment, every text, every conversation, trying to find the answer to a question that feels impossible to solve. But here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. This is not your fault, and it is not about your worth. You did everything the world told you to do. You gave space. You gave time. You gave silence. And you got nothing in return but more silence. So if that is what you have been doing, and it has not worked, then it is time to stop. Not because you failed, but because you were fighting the wrong battle with the wrong weapon. And this is exactly why you need to stay until the very end of this video. Because what I am about to share with you is something most people never discover. It is not a trick. It is not manipulation. It is not playing games or pretending to be someone you are not. It is something far more powerful. Something that cuts through the walls an avoidant has built not with silence, but with something they have never learned to resist. And by the time we are done here, you will not just understand why they push you away. You will understand exactly what makes them stop and think, what makes them feel something they have spent their whole life running from. So, do not go anywhere because this is the thing that actually reaches an avoidant and it will change everything you thought you knew about getting through to them. But more than that, it will change how you see yourself. And that might be the most powerful thing this video ever does for you right now. You feel like a ghost. You are standing right there, fully present, fully feeling, completely available. And it is like you are invisible. You are sending signals into the void. You are breaking yourself open, trying to find the right words, the right approach, the right moment to say something that finally makes them see you. But they do not. And every single day that passes, a little piece of you fades. Not because they told you to leave, but because you stayed and still got nothing back. That is the cruelest part. You did not get rejected with words. You got rejected with silence. And silence is a kind of nothing that feels like everything. You lay in bed at night, replaying every conversation. You analyze your last message over and over. You wonder what you said wrong. You scroll through old photos and old texts, looking for some kind of answer. And the cruelest part, you find nothing because there was no fight. There was no clear ending. There was just you standing there with your arms open and them walking away like you were never even there. That is what creates the deepest wound. Not the goodbye, the fade, the way they just slowly stopped showing up, the way your name stopped appearing on their screen, the way it felt like one day you just stopped mattering and nobody even told you why. And you keep asking yourself, did I do something? Was I too much? Was I not enough? Did I love wrong? Was I the problem all along? That is the trap. That is the hole you are sinking into right now. And the world is not helping. The world is telling you to play it cool, to move on, to focus on yourself. And all of that is good advice. Except you cannot focus on anything because you are drowning in the feeling of being erased. So let me stop you right there. I need you to breathe for a second because what you are feeling right now is real. It is valid, and you are not crazy for feeling it. The reason you feel invisible is not because you are not worth seeing. It is because you are trying to be seen by someone who has built their entire life around not being seen themselves. Think about that. An avoidant person did not ignore you because you were forgettable. They ignored you because being seen, really being seen, feels like a threat to them. It feels like someone shining a light into a room they have kept locked for years. And the instinct is not to open up. The instinct is to shut the door harder. So when you reached out, when you tried to connect, when you laid your feelings on the table, they did not see love. They saw something terrifying, something that demanded something they were not ready to give. And instead of telling you that, instead of being honest, they just disappeared. Not because they do not care, but because caring felt like losing themselves. That is not your failure. That is their wound. You are sitting there wondering why you were not enough. But the truth is, you were not the problem. You were too much in the wrong direction. You gave them depth when they needed space. You gave them closeness when they needed distance. Not because you were wrong to love, but because they could not meet you where you were standing. And that is not your fault. Here is what I need you to understand. The reason you feel invisible is because you have been fighting for someone who was never fighting back. You have been pouring yourself into a relationship where you were the only one pouring. And when you finally stopped, when you finally went silent, you thought that would make them run back to you, but they did not. And the silence did not hurt them the way it hurt you. So you are sitting there feeling like you do not matter, like you do not exist in their world anymore. Like you could disappear tomorrow and they would not even notice. And that feeling is eating you alive. But I want you to hear this clearly. You matter. Not because they came back. Not because they finally saw you. Not because they sent that text or made that call. You matter because you showed up. You matter because you loved fully. You matter because you had the courage to feel something deeply when most people are too scared to even try. The fact that they could not meet you does not erase what you brought to the table. It only shows you that you were offering something they were not ready to receive. And here is what nobody is telling you. That is not a tragedy. That is information. You now know who you are dealing with. You now know that your love, your kind of love, the deep kind, the all-in kind, was never going to work with someone who runs from exactly that. So stop asking yourself what you did wrong. Start asking yourself what you are willing to do next. Because you are not invisible. You are just looking in the wrong direction. And in the next section, I am going to show you exactly what actually reaches these people. Not the silence, not the space, not the waiting. Something else entirely. Something that does not ask for anything from them. It simply shows them who they are running from. Stay with me. This is going to change the way you see everything. Now that you understand why you feel the way you feel, let's talk about them. Not to hate them, not to blame them, but to truly understand what is happening on the other side of that silence. Because if you do not understand them, you will keep fighting battles that can never be won. And that is exactly where most people get stuck. They spend months, sometimes years, trying to figure out why an avoidant person acts the way they do. And they never get an answer that satisfies them. So they spiral. They question themselves. They break a little more every single day. But that stops. Now here is the thing nobody is telling you. An avoidant person is not cold. They are not emotionless. They are not incapable of love. They are wounded in a way that most people cannot even imagine. And once you truly see it, everything about their behavior starts to make sense. Every time they pulled away, every time they went silent, every time they made you feel like you were too much, it was never about you. It was about them running from something they cannot even name. See, your brain processes closeness and connection as safety. When you love someone, when you feel close to them, your nervous system sends signals that say, "This is good. Stay here. You are protected." That is how healthy attachment works. You lean in, you open up, you trust. But for someone with an avoidant attachment style, the wiring is completely different. Their brain does the opposite. The moment emotional closeness gets too real, too deep, too close, their nervous system sends a different signal. It says danger. It says threat. It says run. Not because there is actually something dangerous happening, but because their body learned somewhere very early that closeness leads to pain. Think about that for a second. Imagine feeling terrified every time someone got too close to you. Imagine your body tensing up not when someone leaves, but when someone tries to stay. That is what it feels like to be avoidant. It is a constant low-grade panic every single time intimacy deepens. Not because they do not want to love, but because part of them learned that love is dangerous. And that is the part nobody talks about. Everyone looks at an avoidant and sees someone who does not care, someone who is cold, someone who can walk away without blinking. But what they are actually seeing is a person who is deeply, deeply terrified, a person whose body will do anything to protect them from feeling that terror again, even if it means losing you. That is why they disappear. That is why they pull away right when things get good. That is why they push you out right when you feel the closest. It is not a choice. It is a reflex. It is their nervous system trying to keep them safe from a kind of pain they learned to expect long before they ever met you. And here is what makes it so brutal for you. You did nothing wrong. You loved them the way anyone would love. You opened up. You gave them everything you had. And when you did, their body read that as a threat. The more you gave, the more danger signals went off inside their head. So they pulled back. They created distance. They did the exact thing that kept them safe and it kept you out. That is the loop. That is the pattern. And it has nothing to do with how much you love them or how hard you try. Now, I know this is hard to hear because it means that nothing you did would have changed the outcome. If you had given them more space, they still would have run. If you had been less intense, they still would have pulled away. Not because your approach was wrong, but because their system was always going to do what it does. And that is not defeat. That is actually freedom. Because once you understand this, you stop blaming yourself. You stop replaying every message trying to find the mistake. You stop wondering if you just said the right thing, acted the right way, gave the right amount of space, they would have stayed. You know the truth now. They did not leave because of something you did. They left because of something inside them that was broken long before you ever showed up. And that changes everything, because now you are not fighting to get someone back who does not know how to stay. You are standing on your own ground, understanding exactly what you are dealing with. And the next section is where we shift, because knowing this is not enough. You need to know what actually reaches them. Not silence, not waiting, not playing games, something else entirely. And it starts with understanding one core truth that most people never even learn. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And it will rewire how you think about everything that happened between you and this person. So do not go anywhere. Keep watching, because the next part is where we go deeper than anyone has ever gone with you about this, and it is going to change everything. So if their nervous system is wired to run from closeness, what exactly are they running from? That is the question that unlocks everything. And once you see the answer, you will never look at this situation the same way again. They are not afraid of losing you. Let that sink in for a second. Everything you thought, every theory you built in your head, every explanation you rehearsed in the shower, every text you drafted and deleted, it all assumed that they pushed you away because they were afraid of the relationship failing. But that is not it. Not even close. They pushed you away because somewhere deep inside they were afraid of losing themselves. Think about what that means. They did not look at you and think, I do not want this person. They looked at you and thought, if I let this person in, I will disappear. I will become someone I do not recognize. I will merge into them and vanish entirely. And that terror, that quiet scream inside their chest, it is more powerful than any feeling they have for you. Because here is the truth. They will never say out loud. They do not fear being alone. They fear being consumed. They fear that if they let someone all the way in, there will be nothing left of them. No boundaries, no identity, no self, just a hollow space shaped like another person. That is what engulfment feels like to them. And every time you reached out, every time you tried to get closer, every time you expressed how much you cared, their body read it as an invasion. Not because they do not want love, but because love to them has always felt like erasure. And this is where most people completely miss the point. You were not just fighting for their attention. You were fighting for them to choose something their entire being tells them is dangerous. Every time you opened up, every time you deepened the connection, you unknowingly asked them to risk the one thing they have protected above all else, themselves. So when they pulled away, it was never about not loving you enough. It was about loving themselves enough to survive. Now there is a second fear beneath this one, and it is even darker. They are afraid that they are fundamentally broken, that there is something deeply wrong with them that cannot be fixed. When they look at their own pattern, the way they always run, the way they always push away the people who love them most, they see something terrifying. They see a person who does not know how to be loved, a person who ruins good things, a person who is destined to be alone, not because the world keeps leaving, but because they keep destroying what they touch. That fear lives in them even when they are the ones who walked away, even when they acted like nothing bothered them, even when they seemed completely fine. Deep down, they are haunted by the suspicion that they are the problem. And instead of facing that terror, they do what they always do. They run, they avoid. They convince themselves that the next person will be different, that they just have not met the right one. that the problem is always out there, never inside. But it is inside. And that is the thing they will never let themselves face. So when you feel invisible right now, when you sit there wondering why you are not enough, I need you to hear this clearly. You were not trying to reach a person who could not love you. You are trying to reach a person who is terrified of themselves. A person who has spent their whole life running from the one thing that could actually save them. Real deep vulnerable connection. And that is not a flaw in you. That is a flaw in their armor. And the crack in that armor is not silence. It is not distance. It is not waiting around, hoping they will finally wake up and realize what they lost. The crack in that armor is something else entirely. Because here is what nobody has ever told you. An avoidant person can sense when someone has finally stopped needing them. When someone has walked away and rebuilt themselves into something stronger. That is not silence they hear. That is a mirror they cannot look away from. And in the next section, I'm going to show you exactly why your current strategy is failing. Why the things everyone tells you to do are making it worse. And what you need to do instead to create the one thing that actually reaches an avoidant at their core. This is the shift that changes everything.